Hi, welcome to our channel. For today's video, we will recap an adventure sci-fi film called Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire from the year 2014. The movie is set 2 years after the events of Afterlife. The veteran Ghostbusters must join forces with their new recruits to save the world in New York City from a death-chilling god who seeks to build a spectral army. Have you seen this movie yet? If not, grab some popcorn and enjoy. Firefighters from New York City rush upstairs and try to rescue the people inside the room. The firefighter touches the door, and his hand starts to freeze. When they enter, they discover bodies inside a gentleman's club in July 1904, despite the heat outside. A phonograph plays an eerie chant in languages that have since been forgotten, and there are other hints that something supernatural may have happened there. A traumatized lady in an armored suit clutches a bronze orb as the sole survivor. Present-day Callie Spengler, her children Trevor and Phoebe, and her lover Gary Gruberson are inside the speeding car with a Ghostbuster sign on its side, chasing a ghost dragon in the streets of New York City. Emerging from the manhole, the spectral dragon hurries over to confront the Busters. They are fortunate to have evaded the assault. A brilliant idea comes to Phoebe, who presses the button to release the seat and sets it outside the automobile. While Callie frets over her daughter, Gary finds the situation amusing. Phoebe captures the dragon's tail after shooting it with an electric rifle. The cops see them passing through, but they don't seem surprised because they trust the Busters to capture the spirit. Callie flies off her drone, and Trevor lets go of a remote-controlled vehicle, so the pursuit is far from done. They successfully catch the spirit dragon just as they almost collide with an oncoming car. Without hesitation, Phoebe returns her car seat to the inside by pressing a button. The vehicle comes to a halt as Gary loses control and crashes into the bike parking lane. A rise in ghost hunting is being reported in the media. With each pursuit, they discuss the amount of harm they inflict and who will be held financially responsible. Mayor Peck reprimands Gary, Callie, Trevor, and Phoebe, who are all enraged by what transpires. Walter realizes that Phoebe is a mere 15 years old and is engaged in illicit labor. Although he tries to explain and protect Phoebe, Gary does not have any legal rights to her as he is not her actual father. Ignoring his explanation, Walter cautions them against entrusting Phoebe with the task of hunting ghosts. Even though she is underage, Phoebe is pushing herself to be a Ghostbuster in their flat. Walter watches them, so they have a little argument, and the others won't let her. Downstairs, while Callie puts the clothes in the washing machine, Gary is having trouble putting the dragon's spirit on the containment, and Callie is helping him. They both pull down the lever until they succeed. The light is still green, but there is something eerie about it. The camera begins rolling, and Ray's occult books and podcast are in the process of obtaining artifacts that are rumored to be cursed once the count of 3 is reached. As the individuals begin to present items to Ray Stantz, the host, he uses a psychokinetic meter to evaluate the items being presented. For every object that is not particularly creepy, Ray and his aide, podcast, break the item without the owner's permission, which leaves the people shocked. Phoebe brings a jar of moon sign samples when she encounters a Stay-Puffed Marshmallow Man while at Ray's occult books. She is taken aback as the podcast mercilessly strikes the monster, but thankfully, the creature's fluffy nature prevents any significant harm. All of a sudden, there are a lot of Stay-Puffed Marshmallow Men. Nadim Razmati, a client, sells Ray the orb, a cherished relic from Nadim's grandmother, just before her passing. As the orb enters Ray's possession, a sense of great energy ripples through the shop, causing the Marshmallow Men to scatter in fear. When Ray examines the orb's PK levels, it unleashes a psychic charge, triggering an earthquake that rumbles through the shop and extends to the firehouse. A freeze-like pattern emerges, creeping towards the ecto-containment, damaging the walls dangerously close to their limits. Gary reports it to Ms. Janine Melnitz and figures out that the containment has not been emptied since 1984. Trevor notices a hole in the ceiling oozing gross green slime. Hastily, he rushes to his mother to procure some tools for the repair, then ascends to the attic. Amidst a clutter of discarded items, he detects a menacing growl emanating from beneath a pile of trash. Investigating cautiously, he is startled as a green ghost materializes before him, passing through both his form and the adjacent wall. Phoebe's expressions vividly convey her profound sadness as her family departs for another ghost hunting expedition. Ray witnesses the Ghostbusters' iconic vehicle gliding past his shop, a sight that never fails to ignite a spark of nostalgia and excitement within him. Phoebe ventures to the park alone, where she finds herself engaged in a spirited game of chess with a ghost named Melody. The unexpected encounter adds a touch of whimsy to her solitary evening. Suddenly, Melody disappears, leaving Phoebe. Dr. Lars Pinfield is examining the containment when a loud noise startles him. They reveal Callie's father's design, which has now reached its limit of containing spirits for over 40 years. Winston and Lucky then introduce the Spenglers to Winston's privately owned paranormal research center, where they unveil their latest innovation, a machine capable of extracting spiritual energy, reverse-engineered from Egon Spengler's ecto-containment technology. Upon entering, the family is amused by what they see: advanced technology and equipment that can be utilized in ghost hunting. Ray and Podcast arrive at the facility with the orb in tow. Meanwhile, Phoebe sees a ghost confined within a glass cell so that Winston and the scientists can conduct their studies. Within the facility, various ghosts inhabit separate cells, each possessing unique capabilities for examination and analysis. Back at the firehouse, Gary attempts to comfort Phoebe by inviting her to assist him in repairing the equipment. However, as soon as an emergency arises, Gary and Callie swiftly depart. Phoebe, still grappling with her emotions following her ban from ghost hunting, receives a call. Despite her conflicted feelings, she clandestinely agrees to embark on a ghost hunting mission with Podcast. In the facility, while they are extracting ghost spirits from various items, Lucky inserts the orb into the extraction machine. The ghosts surrounding them emit unclear signals. It becomes apparent that the orb is resisting the extraction process, causing the machine to malfunction and nearly allowing another ghost to escape. Fortunately, Lars swiftly intervenes and halts the machine. As he approaches the orb, it inexplicably grows heavy, causing his hand to freeze until he releases it, inadvertently dropping it to the ground. At the coffee shop, Phoebe and Podcast receive a call to hunt a ghost, and Phoebe is surprised to encounter Melody. She hesitates, torn between her friendship with Melody and her duty to capture ghosts. Podcast's sudden shout startles Phoebe, causing her to impulsively fire the ghost gun at Melody, who easily evades the shot and escapes the premises. Melody follows Phoebe to the firehouse. Curious, Phoebe asks Melody how she can effortlessly move chess pieces and traverse between locations. Melody explains that she exists in a different dimensional plane, offering Phoebe a glimpse into the mysteries of her existence. Intrigued, Phoebe invites Melody for a tour inside the firehouse, eager to learn more about her spectral companion's unique perspective. Melody suddenly disappears, only to reappear in front of the containment unit. Mesmerized, she reaches out, almost touching it. Phoebe, concerned, explains how the containment unit works and suggests that Melody should join her family on the other side. Melody responds, revealing that the last match, which led to her demise, binds her to this world. Callie's call interrupts Phoebe's conversation with Melody, causing Melody to disappear once again. The scene shifts to the containment unit, where eerie sounds begin to emanate, adding an unsettling atmosphere to the scene. The orb freezes, surrounded by an icy chill, as Melody urgently implores them to move faster to free them immediately. Trevor returns to the attic and sets up a trail of Cheetos on the ground to lure the ghost. He readies his gun as the ghost begins to emerge, slowly making its way towards the snack. Suddenly, an earthquake shakes the room, prompting them to rush to the basement. There, they discover that the containment unit is freezing and the walls are visibly damaged. In the facility, Lars demonstrates how the orb works, particularly to the other ghosts. It becomes apparent that the orb has the ability to control their ghost minds, compelling them to carry out its commands. When Trevor, Pinfield, and Lucky visit Nadim, they discover the secret chamber with brass walls where Nadim's grandmother kept the orb. Among the finds are brass equipment and metallic outfits. During their investigation, Lucky accidentally points the PK meter at Nadim, revealing that he shares the same energy as the ghost. Feeling compelled, Nadim is forced to join them on their journey when Lucky demands that he accompany them to the facility. At Ray's shop, Podcast interrupts and shows Phoebe and Ray a video taken during their time in the facility, documenting the effects of the orb on the other ghosts, which suddenly becomes corrupted. The sound accompanying the video contains ancient language, sending shivers down their spines. Feeling uneasy, they decide to formulate a plan to investigate further. Meanwhile, Melody pays a visit to Phoebe at the firehouse, showing a keen interest in the containment unit. Unbeknownst to Phoebe, Melody secretly works to infiltrate the facility in order to free the trapped entity from the orb assigned to be close to Phoebe for this purpose. Meanwhile, in the facility, Peter Venkman conducts an examination and tests Nadim's abilities. He tosses a pin towards Nadim, which causes the flames to flare up higher. Through this experiment, Peter discovers that Nadim possesses latent pyrokinetic abilities during a parapsychological evaluation. Phoebe, Podcast, and Ray arrive at the New York Public Library to meet with Dr. Hubert Wartsky. He confirms that the language captured on the corrupted video is so ancient that only 5 people in the world can understand it. Ray presents a picture of the orb to Dr. Hubert for further examination. Dr. Hubert leads them downstairs to reveal the only book documenting the history of the orb. He explains that the orb was constructed to imprison a demonic god named Garaka, who sought to conquer their dimension. Garaka possessed the ability to telepathically control ghosts and lower temperatures to absolute zero while feeding on negative emotions. Thousands of years ago, Garaka was trapped after a fierce battle with 4 sorcerers known as the Fire Masters, who exploited his vulnerabilities to fire and brass. However, Garaka was briefly freed by the Manhattan Adventurers Society in 1904, resulting in their demise, before being recaptured by one of the Fire Master's descendants, Nadim's grandmother. The library has archived a phonograph cylinder recording of Garaka's ritual, which Dr. Hubert plays. Meanwhile, a poltergeist named Possessor attempts to steal the cylinder. The 4 rush to catch the poltergeist. On the run, Ray sees a ghost in the library and is frightened. Possessor uses a trash bag to travel and take the cylinder. Outside the library, Ray spots the trash bag containing the cylinder, but before he can reach it, Possessor possesses a nearby lion statue, animating it to attack. Phoebe acts quickly and manages to shoot the lion before it reaches her, causing the stones to scatter and even damaging a police car that arrives on the scene. Luckily, in the chaos, the cylinder was also broken. The police arrest Phoebe for working as a Ghostbuster while underage and for disregarding Mr. Peck's warning. At the police station, Phoebe storms out after Gary angrily scolds her for misbehaving in front of Mr. Peck. As a consequence, Gary, Callie, and Trevor are dismissed from their roles as Ghostbusters, and their original equipment is confiscated. Meanwhile, Nadim interrupts Lars while he is examining the containment unit. Ray arrives and explains to Nadim that he may be the only one who can help them prevent Garaka's resurrection. To verify Nadim's potential as one of the Fire Masters, Ray lights up a lighter. Nadim is surprised to discover that he can control fire using his fingertips. Gary seeks to reconcile with Phoebe, offering her words of apology, but Phoebe is nowhere to be found. Instead, she runs away to meet Melody, seeking solace and an outlet to express her frustrations and thoughts. They break into the research center. Phoebe enters and uses the lab's extraction machine to separate her spirit from her body, allowing her to become a ghost for 2 minutes since Melody convinced her. This enables her and Melody to physically interact. Melody becomes emotional and confesses that she made a deal to free Garaka from captivity in exchange for passage to the afterlife. Suddenly, Phoebe is controlled by the orb and begins chanting words to free Garaka. The orb floats and releases the brass seal that prevented Garaka from escaping, causing it to collapse. Darkness envelopes their surroundings. As the 2 minutes pass, Phoebe returns to her body. Garaka reveals itself, completely free. Lucky approaches and attempts to capture Garaka, but their equipment proves futile as Garaka demonstrates its overwhelming power and freezes it up. Gary and Callie rush to the facility to discover that Phoebe has separated from her body, but they are faced with a daunting problem. Garaka is roaming the city in search of its horn to complete its resurrection. On the beach, a massive wave and cloud emerge from the sea, gradually encroaching upon the land and transforming everything into ice. Phoebe feels deep remorse and disappointment for placing her trust in the wrong ghost. Seeking refuge, they retreat to Ray's shop, where they find Nadim practicing his abilities. As they prepare for the mission and the impending danger, Phoebe suggests covering all bullets and equipment with brass, as it is Garaka's weakness. Phoebe checks the windows and witnesses the dire state of the entire area. All the former and current Ghostbusters join forces to defeat Garaka. Trevor and Lucky step outside to assess the situation and quickly return indoors. Meanwhile, Possessor, the poltergeist, utilizes a mini bicycle to reach the firehouse door and forcefully open it. Once inside, it possesses the Ghostbuster car and crashes it into tables strewn with file papers. Escaping using a paper plane, Possessor is pursued by Lucky, who manages to catch it. However, Possessor retaliates by using an electric gun to target Trevor. Fortunately, Nadim uses his ability to manipulate electricity and hurls it outside. The enraged podcast smashes the equipment. Possessor attempts to escape once more, this time using a pizza, but the monster devours it, thwarting its getaway. Phoebe descends to the basement, where she finds Melody standing before the containment unit. Meanwhile, Garaka arrives at the firehouse with the intent of freeing the other captured ghosts. As Garaka enters the firehouse, the Ghostbusters stand ready. Nadim makes his entrance wearing the brass warrior suit. Despite Nadim's imposing appearance, Garaka appears unfazed and begins to conjure ice peaks, cornering the Ghostbusters. The ground lights up, illuminating the surroundings, as the freed ghosts from the containment soar upwards toward the sky. This spectacle follows Garaka's successful destruction of the containment unit. As others around them turn into ice, Phoebe rushes upstairs. Loading her gun with brass elements, she takes aim and fires at Garaka. Miraculously, the release of the ghosts suddenly stops. However, despite the effectiveness of Phoebe's gun against Garaka, it proves insufficient to halt him completely. As Phoebe transforms into ice, Garaka attempts to seize her soul. However, Melody appears and ignites her last match, which Nadim is able to control. He shoots it at Garaka, weakening him significantly. Phoebe returns to her normal state and fires at Garaka with a laser. Callie, Trevor, and Gary rush to assist Phoebe in holding the gun steady, while Nadim continues to control the fire to restrain Garaka. Meanwhile, Podcast attempts to deploy his drone but is thwarted by the Marshmallow Men. As the others struggle to fight Garaka, Dr. Peter, Winston, Janine, and Ray rush to the basement. Together, they push the lever down with all their might, stopping the ghosts from leaking out of the containment. Just as they succeed, Garaka is suddenly sucked into the containment, preventing the world from being frozen by his power. Melody bids her final farewell to Phoebe. The movie ends as the city begins to return to normal. The Ghostbusters gain popularity and receive praise from the people for saving the world. Walter arrives and attempts to eliminate the Ghostbusters, but realizing the positive public perception, he congratulates them instead. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the movie. See you on our next video.